replaced is this kit. Run this K10 WB from Walbro, not some Chinese crap that you might find on Amazon that says replaces it and it's made by some crap Chinese thing. Because nobody wants low quality parts in their aircraft. I'm also gonna get rid of all the stuff we don't need here because this carb kit it's for multiple carburetors, so they give like extra shit we don't need.
Gotcha.
We don't need that. I'm gonna have two separate piles here. Don't need, no. Yes. Yes. No. Yes. No. Yes. Okay, so we got that pile. Here's the main thing you want to make sure that if you get the non-Nirvana carb kit, like what I have here, the K10 one, it's gonna have this little button on top. Whereas when you notice what comes out, it doesn't have that. And so we're just gonna simply cut this one off with a pair of cutters.
Wire snips or something?
Yep. All I gotta do is put that there. Just make sure you're not on the big part below it. And then just clip. And you may be tempted to, because I used to do this back in the day until I realized it's not necessary, but you may be tempted to kind of like sand or file that little piece down, sticking up, the skinny piece, but does not matter that it's there. Because the main thing is that the surface of the fatter part below it is where the metering lever sits, which is this piece. So if you grind too much off of this post on the bottom, trying to get rid of the tiny one, you're gonna change the height at which this metering lever actuates off of this moving membrane.
Gotcha.
So that's not good. We don't, and like if you were to grind that little whole nub off on accident, it would run like shit. And if you forget to clip that off, it will idle and run good down low, but if you try to rev it up, it runs like crap at like higher RPMs. So some people that just put the whole kit together and don't know that, they're trying to dial out some issues and they can't figure out what it is, and it's probably
They left the button on top.
They may have left it.
Would it be pressurized or yeah?
Well, you don't have to feel in here either, but just as a general rule of thumb.
Yeah, I've noticed when it holds positive pressure in there pretty well, right?
Yeah, a good thing, because Nirvana system doesn't leak out. And it's really made for a chainsaw, so like if you're trying to cheap ass with a chainsaw, that's one thing. But you don't want to cheap out with your aircraft, you know?
Yeah.
But maybe it's not just being cheap, maybe it's like you can't find the Walbro parts in stock easily or something at that time. You might be enticed to say, fuck it, let's just run the Chinese shit. But fuck it is not something that you should use in this sport, right? It's just paramotoring where fuck it isn't good enough.
Yeah, it takes all the fun out of it when you don't trust it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Here's another tip. Don't take all these hoses off on the back. Just take the plate off and leave the hoses attached to the plate like this. I'll just leave this plate on the machine because we're gonna replace the diaphragms that touch these. And then we got fuel line. And now we take off the other side. I was gonna do this inside on the table, but it's okay.
All good.
I already got it half apart now. In these little passages you couldn't get to. And yeah, so the trick on this screw is not to take it out all the way. The one that holds that moving mechanism, which is called the metering lever, if you take it out all the way, putting it back in gets a lot trickier. Because there's your needle, spring, metering lever, and a little pin. So now we pop this plate off, a little flathead. go under. There's another another gasket right there. And then you can see the tips of your adjuster screws here. Boom, boom. So if this was really nasty, you could take your screws all the way out and clean those holes and like, but it's like you can see it's really clean in there. Yep. There's a vent, or sorry, there's a screen here. It's super clean. It doesn't even look like it needs to be cleaned anywhere. Clean anyways, but in some cases though, you could pull those adjuster screws out and clean all that and put them back in.
Gotcha.
But that's rarely needed. The metal.
And you said you didn't see a lot of varnish in there, but some of the diaphragms and stuff, they could be crunchy, I guess, right? Or
yeah, I mean, over time they get less rubbery normally, naturally, but when we run ethanol fuel, it speeds that process up a little bit. So it is what it is. I'd rather burn not ethanol. Sorry, I'd rather burn ethanol and do this once a year rather than try to run
ethanol-free
ethanol and then try to like run around all town, making sure I always have it and pay more money for it. So on this side, the easiest and best way to get this stuff back together is, there's a few different ways you can do this, but here's my favorite. You set the spring in the little spring hole. We put the metering lever in the right position, and I know this because I just do this a lot, but this little dent right here is for the top of the spring. So I'll hang the needle off the front because we want the needle needs to go in that hole right there. We'll get the pin in, but we won't slide it over to where it'll be, when it's normally just chilling, the pin sits on the metering lever like that, and it only gets held down on one side by that screw. But for installation, we'll slide the pin off to the right, because then when we set this down in there, we're looking for two things to happen at once: the needle to go in that hole and the spring to go on that little pin on the other side of the metering lever. So we'll put the pin like this. We're sliding in our needle, the spring is sitting properly, and then the next thing I do is I slide the pin under the screw, and in one smooth motion. You don't tighten it down all the way yet, we double check. And as you can see, if you push in the back of the metering lever, the needle pops up. And that's it. I made that look easy, because that can be very tricky, but
you got muscle memory involved.
Yeah. Just on that. And then we put our gasket here. And then this guy. So we'll snug these in at first, and then we'll just give them just a little snug. We don't need to crank these down. Snug. Boom, boom. Check that again. Okay, so now we're getting that ready. Here's another little tricky thing that gets people sometimes, is that on this side, it's opposite of what you would expect on an engine, where if I have a metal part here, normally, so on this side, it's exactly what you would expect, how a gasket and a membrane should work here. So on this side, I'm not going to put them on yet because I'm going to do this other side on first, but on this side, you want to put this membrane on the carburetor surface like that, and then you stack the gasket on top of it like that, and then you put the cap down. However, on this side, you don't put them in that direction. You actually put them opposite that. So on this side, you put the gasket first. So we're ready for that now. Gasket, because for whatever reason, they don't want this sitting against the carburetor. They want it a little bit higher. And all this matters. So then, yeah, we just set the membrane on top of the gasket like that. And then cap. Okay, so now, boom, that gasket on top. So now we're ready for the plate. Making sure that my little pin holes line up. They do. So now we just set the plate right on top here. Because you can see the little pins.
Oh, it's good.
Little pins right there.
Nice.
So you have to get it all lined up perfectly. And then everything's fine. Boom, boom. There we go. So now the 2 screws back in. We're gonna be very careful.
So
on
there's
this
no-
side.
Oh,
Not to
there's
mess up the gasket. The gasket is just chilling on the carburetor that whole time.
Right.
But it's on a side that like doesn't matter if it's chilling there. It doesn't matter. So it just lets it alone.
So just make sure it doesn't bind up or anything.
Yeah. So
right?
when you're screwing this back in, you gotta be careful that you don't accidentally mess it up with the screws. Okay. So that's good. Keep in mind, you're tightening screws that are in a plastic plate with a plastic kind of a washer in a sense, because that piece is underneath the bolt. So when you're tightening this carburetor down, don't crank the ever-living shit out of it, because you'll get to the point where it only has plastic resistance anymore, and you have to know that. So you can just say, okay, that's enough. Because keep going, because you're not feeling that metal to metal, like super tight feeling that you normally feel when you tighten bolts down.
Right.
You won't feel that with these two. You gotta make sure that you don't just keep cranking on it until you break shit. Get the heck out of here. Get back on.
Well, man, I appreciate it. I'm gonna stop the recording, and I'll edit this later and post it with your permission.
Yeah, sure.
And we can share it around, or
It'll help people, for sure.
hopefully help someone
Mm-hmm.
with their fuel make it happen.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. We got our smaller screws.
Can I ask, where's the bowl with fuel in it?
So this carburetor doesn't have a float bowl.
Ah,
On this side, this is kind of like the little fuel sump area, but this machine is designed very smart, and this carburetor is very amazing to where there's no float bowl. The machine pumps fuel in here via a pressure tube, and the flappers that we're about to install on this side.
so it has constant fuel pressure. It doesn't need a
No, it has bursts of a fuel pressure. So each time the piston moves up and down, it'll give pressure, and that's what it uses to push the fuel through via this diaphragm wiggling back and forth, and these flapper valves opening and closing in only one way. So when the piston goes up, it makes a vacuum, and that's when fuel gets pulled in, because they shut off, and it'll pull fuel through the thing, or the hose, and then when the piston starts going the other way, it reverses, and so the flappers do the opposite, and then it pushes the fuel a different direction. And so just by using that positive and negative pressure, it's like it runs its own fuel pump. So that's cool, because you don't have to have a fuel pump. You don't have to worry about buying that and having an expensive thing on there that costs money and
it can break.
costs electricity and problematic issues. The whole carburetor is its own fuel pump, which is cool.
If you're going to store your paramotor, is it fine to just drain the fuel out of the tank and then the carburetor will drain itself? Or okay,
Yeah, usually you'll still have like a little bit of residual in here, but it's fine. It's usually not much.
okay.
If you could, if you wanted to get crazy with it, you could like pull these side covers off and just kind of spray a little carb cleaner in it, but no one really does that.
All right.
Okay, so back to this side. And you want to use the proper size. So it's kind of a big ass screwdriver for this, but for some reason the big tips fit these little screws really nice. So if you use a small one,
Just strip it out.
and yeah, if it's not fitting in there right, when you tighten it down, you might strip it slightly, which you may not even pay attention to. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. But you don't want to strip it because then there's going to be like little metal shavings that go in your carburetor, right? So that's not ideal. So coming out with this is usually fine, but tightening back down, make sure you have the proper screwdriver for these little screws and that you don't strip it. So the only thing that the kit doesn't come with is this spring, which is sad because it should come with a spring. But it doesn't. So if you have an issue where your spring's like old or you lost it, then you gotta get on and order one. But
So as you getting that screwed back in, when we talked about this before, you said there's two little gotchas that you should know about. The one is cutting the head off of the metering nub.
and
Is the other one the
the
gasket? order?
gasket flips, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Everything else is pretty standard as far as light carb stuff goes. Yes. So this is kind of an interesting idea, although I don't want to run on my aircraft. You could try it out. I don't know. We haven't seen good results from it, but these are identical, and this is the one that comes out. This is a, air quotes, ethanol resistant diaphragm. It's supposed to last longer. However, I'm not going to test it because we have the proper one here, and it's not that big of a deal. It's just to switch it out real easy.
Yeah.
So I can't be the test dummy for that thing.
Yep.
When it's aircraft, we have to just. But that's potentially something that could be slightly longer. But the problem is as this thing gets old and you want to replace it, the other side and the other stuff was also old. So like, it only solves part of the problem.